Hi, my name is Casey Lau. Welcome to my living room here in beautiful Vancouver, Canada. You might know me as the co-host of the Rise Conference in Hong Kong. But for the next few months, I'm going to be the host of Countdown to Collision from Home, our weekly show to keep you updated on what's happening at our new at-home conference coming to you in June. As well as giving you updates on Collision from Home, I'll also be checking in with our speakers, startups, and investors to see how they're doing during this global crisis. We've announced our first 350 speakers, and you can see them all at collisionconf.com as we're announcing new ones every day. Speakers that have been confirmed so far include Aaron Levy, the co-founder of Box, Jonah Peretti, co-founder of BuzzFeed, Hillary Coles, the co-founder of Hims and Hers, Rich Pearson, the co-founder of Headspace, and from Game of Thrones, Jaime Lannister himself, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau. So as you can imagine, it's a massive challenge of bringing an entire live event online and have it feel natural and connected. But the entire Collision team is working really hard right now to make that happen. I think what we're building is something truly exciting, and I hope you'll join us in late June. Let's go to Toronto and meet up with Managing Director of Techstars Toronto and the co-host of Collision, Sunil Sharma. Sunil's kind of sad that we won't physically be in Toronto in June, but he's very excited to split some virtual poutine with us at Collision from Home. Sunil, how are you doing right now? What's going on in Toronto?
Hey, Casey. Yeah, so things in Toronto have been, for the most part, going quite well. I would say the tech industry has shown an incredible degree of resiliency in the face of the pandemic. A few of the companies definitely have announced layoffs. There have been some downsizing and quite a few people let go in some companies, particularly in certain industries. Obviously, retail, restaurant tech, anything hospitality, travel related has been difficult. But overall, I think things are working out relatively well for the ecosystem. There have been companies that have actually been adding people. Some of our large industry companies such as Shopify have announced publicly that they're continuing on a hiring spree and continuing to grow their companies, particularly in key areas.
You're also running Techstars Toronto. How's that coming along?
We are operating as planned. Although we have shifted to a virtual model at least for the time being, but we've made our most recent class announcement of investments. Quite excited by those companies. A few of them are still planning their travel to Toronto, so it hasn't quite been possible for them to come yet, but in the interim, we're operating remotely, and it's been working relatively well.
And what about any startup investment news coming from your network?
Several companies that have been able to close investment rounds, even in the past 2 or 3 weeks, which I think is quite exceptional given the circumstances. And I know of a few more companies that have closed their funding as recently as today. And those announcements will be coming fairly soon. So for the most part, things are going well as we continue to be entirely a work from home workforce here in Toronto.
That's great, Sunil. Definitely keep us updated with what's happening in Toronto.
On another note, I've really been quite impressed by the degree to which the tech community has managed to stay connected in spite of all the disconnection over the course of this pandemic. There's been a tremendous amount of interactions that I've seen online through virtual events, through normal messaging, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. So I feel like everybody is very dialed in right now, working hard, focusing on the future, focusing on the things that they can control. And despite it all, and despite, basically there's been no interaction physically, obviously here or anywhere else, and no visits to the office, no events, no face-to-face meetings. But I think that there's a level of connection that's managed to persevere through all of this, which is keeping the ecosystem moving forward. I think the tech industry in Toronto and across Canada already had a lot of positive momentum, and I feel that momentum is continuing through the use of technology and tech platforms And in fact, I've heard quite a few people say that they feel even more connected now than in the recent past. So there is just more time online and more time interacting and more interactions with people that I think people don't always get a chance to speak to one-on-one or in groups. And so as a result of that, I feel there's a level of cohesion here that's quite inspiring, and I think it bodes very well for the future.
Thanks, Anil. Feeling more connected at a time like this is something really great to hear. And I'm really happy that technology has a part to play in this. I was in Hong Kong back during SARS in 2003. And while we did have the internet, my mobile phone looked like this. And you can imagine I was really good at Snake by the time everything went back to normal. Sunil will be back on next week's episode to talk to some of the startups that were at Collission last year and see how they're doing right now. I wanted to find out how investors are doing at a time like this. And so we're going to bring on Edith Young, managing partner at Race Ventures. She's going to tell us a little bit about what's happening down in Silicon Valley. Hi, Edith. Tell us, as an investor in Silicon Valley, what are some of the meetings that you're having right now, and what are some of the trends that you're seeing?
We, being early stage funds, we're really particular on pay attention to a lot of many trends, and we're particularly bullish on fintech, enterprise, SaaS, developers tools, and we think that there's a lot of really exciting opportunities that's because of the virus. And basically the way that I look at it, I almost treat this as there are so many behavior being changed right now. And I'm not sure about you, but I've been at home for the last 4 weeks, and a lot of behavioral change. So regardless of us Zooming all the times, but we're really bullish on sort of collaborations, a lot of video infrastructure enabling technology. We think that there's going to be a lot of security, data analytic, open data. We think that there's a whole new generation in terms of enterprise tools. If everybody going to be staying at home, not your workers staying at home on customer service, and all your customers sitting at home, there's going to be a whole new sets of tools, maybe new CRM, new ERP, all these like automations, or sort of like the traditional management of enterprise software support system will be all different. I think certainly today I did get a pitch for limo services, and I think that's probably a very tough time. I think any industry that relates to offline education, sort of in-person entertainment, in-person education, a lot of these is going to have anything to do with travel or personal services, business services, where you need to face-to-face. They will have a very tough time. And of course, we get a lot of pitches around, hey, there's a lot of we're producing masks, or we're developing certain like biotech, or certainly gaming and online entertainment. And there are amazing businesses, which I'm very thankful that they exist. But at the same time, that's not our sweet spot. We're really into enterprise, and as much as I'm like really kudos, we need more and more support on the biotech and healthcare side. I think biotech is definitely not our sweet spot, but if your system focuses on healthcare, we're super welcome.
Great to hear that you're looking at enterprise startups in this vertical. But on the flip side, tell me a little bit of what's happening with some of your portfolio companies.
Well, it's definitely not easy. It's a very tough time for all businesses, but it really depends. So some of our enterprise company, they focus on selling to traditional businesses, and they certainly are having a tough time. Some of them say, hey, can I delay payment, or maybe stop our POC from now? And many of the traditional business, can you imagine if you're selling to restaurant right now, you will have no business. So B2B is tough. B2C, surprisingly, we have a couple of companies where I was worried because they sell to traditional businesses, but they were able to like react really quickly and start having a sort of the online version of it. So one of my companies, they are amazing. So they are actually a basketball AI app, and now instead of like the physical training, they're now like sort of enabling all the virtual experience of it. So individual can upload their video, started to have various different exercise, and I think this is like the best time to see some of our portfolio companies get really, really creative to basically move some of this experience from offline to online. I think that is exciting to see. And this is one of those times where, you know, the best CEO will show their true color, and you will see like who will be the strongest can survive. But it's definitely not easy.
Now, besides investing, you're also helping build startups. You're actually hosting some events in Hong Kong to help build the startup community there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so last year, for some of you probably know, like I'm born and raised in Hong Kong. I love Hong Kong, and similar to Casey, we've both been contributing to the Hong Kong startup community for a long time. And I was actually very sad about all the Hong Kong protests and from last year. And long story short, we think that my two co-founders of Founders Hong Kong, including Alfred Chung, which is the founder and CEO of BEA Systems, and also Norma Chu, who's the founder of Data Cook. All three of us is really want to help and support the startup community and want to do more. So it's a nonprofit that we put together, and we have a very strong mentorship. The whole goal is actually connecting Silicon Valley and Hong Kong startup community. I didn't know before, but there are hundreds of amazing technologists and investors who are Hong Kong born in Silicon Valley, and all of us really wanted to support. And many of the startups in Hong Kong need the help, like from product management to marketing to fundraising. So my founder story is actually a series of events, online and offline, and we wanted to share some super practical news, and we'll do more and more of it, like to have office hours, to sort of really connecting the dot, make all the resources in Silicon Valley available to all the Hong Kong founders.
That's great to hear. I'm going to put the link to that down in the description notes so other people can take a look at it. Okay, lastly, let's leave you with a little bit of fun. What's the one pop culture thing that you think really defines the situation we're in right now? Is it something like Tiger King? Is it Animal Crossing? What is it to you?
I refuse, pop culture, I refuse to watch Tiger King. I think the trailer is kind of weird. I have experienced Zoom bombing when I was doing a Zoom call with Kara Schwissner, and it was very, very strange. But I still do not get the toilet paper ordeal, and I think the best thing is for all of us to try quarantini. So that's my favorite.
Okay, quarantini it is. All right, that's great. I'll get the recipe from you for the next episode.
That's it. Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Edith. Stay safe, and I'll see you very soon. Now, Edith says she refuses to watch Tiger King on Netflix, this kind of show that's taken the world by storm. The video of people fighting over toilet paper was the weirdest thing I would see, but I guess Joe Exotica beats that. But just how much are we watching right now? I'm bringing on my next guest, who is the founder and CEO of WatchMojo, Ashkan Karbas-Fushan, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what's happening in his world right now. Hi, Ash. Thanks for being on the program.
It says Captain Morgan, but it's just coffee.
Ha! Well, we wouldn't blame you if it was Captain Morgan inside that mug. Tell me, what's happening with you personally and at WatchMojo right now?
I always tell everyone that it's kind of like Thanos snapped his finger, and either you were in the half of the population that was affected overnight, suddenly, dramatically, and your business ceased operating or was forced to cease operating, or you're like the spared, the fortunate ones who have to rebuild. So obviously, as a digital company, we were lucky to be able to continue to operate, but we did have to adjust. So personally, as a CEO, I already started to delegate years ago. So whether we were at the office or in this work from home formation, my days are obviously very different than others. It's a lot of, frankly, problem solving, checking in with people. If there's a bottleneck, how do you kind of blow that up and try to get everybody to move forward? There's a lot of, even when you're working in an office, there's a lot of people working on different projects, and sometimes they're not aware of what the others are doing, and they should be chatting. So doing that at home just adds a level of complexity, but it's not like we work in a manufacturing plant where it's draconian or different. I'm also doing a little bit, I've started as of last year doing a little bit of investing and advising and coaching and mentoring and just keeping making sure that people stay positive. So spending a little bit of my time on those meetings. Taking a step back, I think you're seeing a divide between those with kids and those without kids. I think those without kids, it could be more of a 9-to-5 business as usual kind of setup. But I think those with kids are essentially tripling up and being employees, parents, and teachers. So, I have a couple of kids. My wife and I started the business together, and we've always had a kind of divide and conquer outlook. And even now, we kind of split up home duties to some extent to make sure that, we don't forget our kids, but also we're pretty lucky our kids at 12 and 9 don't need constant supervision. I've seen a transition from emails, GChat, to maybe just getting on a phone, voice call, just to set the stage, put context, and then maybe follow up. So it does change a little bit communication, but I find it does create opportunities. And then finally, the key is if you want to operate, it's not really business as usual, because going back to that Thanos, half of the world survives, half of the world doesn't, has to figure out what when they could get back and in a normalcy, which is going to take time. I think you recognize that there are opportunities and you want to keep working, and even if your intentions are good and you want to help people, you don't want to seem opportunistic. So you're trying to show compassion and be sincerely sympathetic to other people's plight. But when you reach out, it's not business as usual, so you do have to check in and make sure people are staying healthy, staying safe, staying sane.
So are you happy or not happy, but mildly exuberant of what's going on right now with everybody at home watching all this online content?
It's funny. Everybody says that. Everybody's like, well, you must be happy. And I'm like, are you crazy? Nobody's happy that there's a pandemic. But, I get the point that they're making, which is sure, people are staying home, they're not working. Maybe they're consuming more content, and that's a fact. But look, realistically, your viewership is up. Ours is up, sometimes 30, 40, 50%, but monetization is down. The reality is, over time, there are going to be winners, propelled even faster, quicker out of the gates. Amazon is one of them, and Zoom has been widely cited as another. But the entire travel category, which is 10-15% of advertising spent, is not advertising. And even ironically, let's say you are Microsoft and you have Azure, your cloud-based platform, well, you may stop to advertise because you're getting more demand than you could fulfill. So it's a mixed bag. I don't think that the drop in eCPM is made up by a rise in viewership. I think ultimately in the near term, everybody is affected, whether or not, again, some were affected overnight suddenly, or you feel the ripple effects over time. It's the same thing. We, being a Canadian-based company, we're headquartered in Montreal, but our audience is predominantly American, so our revenues are in USD. The USD is a currency that represents security, and there's always a flight to quality in uncertain times, and these are uncertain times. So I think that formula is rise in viewership, drop in eCPM, strengthening of USD. So we do feel some negative effect, but not as much as most other companies. So I definitely don't want to be complaining at all, and we're counting our blessings to remain operational.
That's fantastic. I look forward to catching up with you. But as I leave you, can you tell me maybe what are some of the things that you learned that you think a founder, CEO should know and you want to pass on to them?
I would say one is perspective. We're being asked to stay at home. We're not being asked to go fight some wars. Your kids are going to be fine. We all went through, whether it was Challenger or 9/11. This is different. Nobody could tell what the impact is going to be. But you have food, shelter, electricity, iPads, internet. So it's still not like we are in war conditions, no food and whatnot. So I think perspective is key. And if you were affected and your company was shut down, or you lost your job as an entrepreneur, the reality is I think entrepreneurs over the last decade have had it pretty easy. It's been like the strong bull market where the big buyers have just made, frankly, startups almost too easy. Capital's been too easy to raise. So you have to look at it as, if you go into the school of leadership, your usual startup is basically, your undergrad. If you hit some rough waters, that's your, master's degree. Well, this is the PhD of leadership school. So I think it's just, you do need to have perspective. Second one for me is balance. I struggle with balance. I work a lot and whatnot, but I think it just goes back to show that, especially now if you're working from home, particularly if you have kids, you need to balance things out. And even it gives you perspective that not everything is urgent, not everything is critical, and you got to pick and choose, not just your battles, but you got to pick and choose like what you want to bother you. And then the third one is, again, I think this concept of opportunity. There's Lenin, whom I don't love to quote, but Lenin said that war served as an accelerator of events in history. Whether you want to say COVID is the new war, is it the Great Depression, is it the Spanish flu? I mean, it's all of that, right? It's a different thing, but there's elements of all that, and it will accelerate things, and it's going to create a lot of opportunity. And I think so long as you do things in a tasteful and kind of mindful way that people have been affected and people are in shock. I mean, it's not like people planned. Imagine Disney, right? Disney never thought they'd be in this position. All their product lines have been kind of ceased to operate, and same thing with others, entrepreneurs, investors, and so, but I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I think you have to remember that that's ultimately what entrepreneurship is about. It's where others see threats, you see an opportunity.
Thanks, Ash. We'll see you at Collision from Home. Okay, that wraps up this episode of Countdown to Collision from Home. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll tune in again next week. I leave you with this, our final segment. It's called Elevator Pitch. Basically, I'm going to give a startup 60 seconds to do an elevator pitch to tell you what they're doing. This startup is from Lithuania, and they just raised $600,000 for their travel startup. Please welcome to the stage, Eddie Travels, and I'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Adomas from Eddie Travels, the AI travel assistant. Over 2 million people are using Eddie Travels to find the best travel deals on Facebook Messenger, Telegram, WhatsApp, and Slack. We have developed a unique natural language processing system so you could talk with Eddie Travels like with a friend. Just send a text or even voice message to Eddie Travels and simply say what you are looking for. In just a few seconds, Eddie Travels will analyze the message and will come back with the best flight or accommodation offers from one of our partners, such as Skyscanner, Kiwi.com, Emirates Airline, and others. Recently, we raised a pre-seed investment round of 1.1 million euros, and now we are working on adding coronavirus alerts and other travel safety features to help those people that still need to travel. For now, please stay safe at home. But if you do get bored, explore the best flights to exciting travel destinations at eddietravels.com. Thank you.